All right, so today we're going to dive into the mind of one of history's most fascinating and honestly paradoxical figures, Omar Khayyam. I mean, this guy was a titan of science, but he was also a poet whose verses about wine and living in the moment have, echoed for 1,000 years. So the big question is, how do those two things even fit together?
And yeah, this is the central puzzle, right? It's what has fascinated people for centuries. On one hand, you've got this brilliant, maybe even pious, scientist mapping the stars. And on the other, you've got this rebel poet who's questioning everything. We're talking creation, the afterlife, you name it, all while, famously, enjoying a glass of wine. So, who was he, really?
I mean, just look at the contrast here. It's pretty wild. On one side, you have the man of science. This is the guy who managed a major observatory. He reformed the Jalali calendar, which, by the way, is a work of incredible precision that's still used in some places. But then on the other side, you've got the author of the Rubaiyat, a man who seems to just throw all that rigid structure out the window to embrace the messy, chaotic present. The difference is so huge that for a long time, scholars were like, wait a minute, are we sure this is even the same guy? They seriously debated if it was two different people.
But here's the thing. Most scholars today are pretty much in agreement. This wasn't two different men. Nope. These were two faces of the same brilliant, questioning mind. Think of it like this. They're two sides of the same coin. Two different ways for one deeply rational person to use logic to tackle the biggest, messiest questions out there. The questions about what it means to be human.
And that really brings us to the heart of it, to the great cosmic question. See, Khayyam's brain was a scientific one. It demanded proof, it demanded logic. And a mind like that can't just switch off when it moves from astronomy to philosophy or faith. It starts applying that same logic everywhere, and it all boils down to one simple, powerful question: why?
Okay, so to really get how he explored these big questions, you gotta understand his weapon of choice, the Rubaiyat. It's a simple four-line poem, a quatrain, but you should think of it like a perfectly structured philosophical punch. Lines 1 and 2, that's the setup, they set the scene. Line 3 is kind of the bridge, but it's line 4, that's the punchline. That's the knockout blow that delivers the big idea, the one that just sticks in your head. And this quote, this one just perfectly sums up his whole problem. It was never made clear in this workshop of dust for what purpose the eternal painter decorated me. Wow. He's looking at humanity, at all our complexity, our ability to love and think and create, and his scientific brain just can't help but ask the most basic question: why? For what purpose? What is the point of all this beautiful, intricate design? And this is absolutely key to understanding him. A philosopher can't accept what reason can't prove. You see, unlike someone who can rely purely on faith, Khayyam, the philosopher, needed evidence. His entire mind was trained to run on logic and observation. So when he went looking for hard, provable evidence of some grand cosmic plan or a detailed map of the afterlife, well, his reason just came up empty. There was nothing there. He brings that exact same cold logic to the idea of an afterlife. He asks, has anyone returned from that long road to tell us the secret? It's such a simple but devastating question, isn't it? For a scientist, you need a witness, you need data. And since not one single person has ever come back from the dead to tell us what it's like, well, from a logical standpoint, you just can't confirm it. It's an unproven hypothesis, plain and simple.
So if you follow that chain of reasoning, it leads to a pretty brutal conclusion. Okay, so if we can't prove a grand purpose, and we can't prove there's an afterlife, then what does that make our existence? He says, what is your coming and going in this world? A fly appeared and then disappeared. From that huge cosmic point of view, our entire lives, all our love, our struggles, our big wins, it's all just a flash. As quick and as meaningless as a fly buzzing into a room and then vanishing.
So all this logical digging into what we can't know, what we can't prove, it forces him to turn his attention to the one thing we do know. The one thing that is absolutely 100% certain, and that is the end.
Yep, for Khayyam, death is the ultimate equalizer. Think about this number, 7,000. He says that once we're gone, we're no different from the people who died 7,000 years ago. All this stuff that makes us feel so different and advanced, our culture, our technology, our history, in that final moment, it all just vanishes. Poof. And we're all left with the same grim reality.
And let me tell you, he is brutally unsentimental about this. For Khayyam, death is not a transition. There's no talk of passing on or finding peace. No. For him, it's an absolute, grim, and physical end. He talks about being consumed by the earth, literally becoming dust again. It's not some spiritual journey, it's a final, physical stop.
Okay, so let's recap. You've got a purpose you can't prove and an end that is brutally certain. So what do? What's the logical response? You might think it's despair, right? But for Khayyam, the answer is rebellion. A rebellion in the moment. And this right here is what makes him so different. So many other poets, they talk about how short life is with this kind of beautiful sadness, a kind of melancholy acceptance. But Khayyam, he's not sad, he's mad. He doesn't just accept his fate. Instead, he argues with the creator. He basically puts the whole system on trial and demands to know where the logic is. His most famous way of explaining this protest is through this incredible metaphor of a potter and a jug. So he paints this picture of the creator as this master potter, someone who makes this delicate, incredible jug that, as he puts it, inspires the mind. He's talking about us, humanity. And then, just as this perfect creation reaches its peak, its most beautiful point, the potter smashes it back on the ground. For no reason at all, just smashes it. And that's his whole protest boiled down into one image. Where is the logic in that? The scientist in him is just screaming, this makes no sense. Why would a rational, masterful creator design something so perfect, so intricate, only to destroy it? It's just irrational. And that brings us to his famous answer. Carpe diem, seize the day. But listen, for him, this isn't just about partying or simple pleasure-seeking. No, it's a deeply philosophical and logical act. His reasoning is, if the universe itself is irrational, if you can't know the future, and the end is certain, then the only rational response is to seize the one and only thing that is certain and real, this present moment. So that brings us to the final question. Why? Why does this poet, this mathematician from 1,000 years ago, still speak to us so powerfully today? Why is his voice still so loud and clear? I think it's because Khayyam gets rid of all the noise. He speaks as a universal human. It doesn't matter where or when he was from. He's not interested in culture or politics or anything temporary. He focuses only on the fundamental bedrock truths of life and death, the stuff that every single human who has ever lived has to deal with. He's timeless because he gives a voice to that little bit of doubt that's inside all of us. In the end, maybe his entire philosophy comes down to this one final, chilling line: there is no coming back. When you're gone, you're gone. Think about that. It's not a promise of heaven or a threat of hell. It's just a cold, hard statement of fact from a mind that valued facts above everything else. It's the ultimate reminder that this moment, right here, right now, this is all we've got. Because when you're gone, you're gone.